Hi there, Let's Talk Sports fans. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let's Talk New York's Let's Talk Sports Roundtable. I'm joined by my co-host Bill, who I always get to talk Pittsburgh sports. He's our Pitts expert, if you will. Thanks for joining me today, Bill.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
No problem at all. As we get closer to NFL season, there's been more Steelers news than I expected, to be honest with you, this week because we've talked about Deontay Johnson. He was in a contract year. Would they do it or wouldn't they? It seemed like even if they did, it might have been a end of the season thing or closer to the end of the season. But I think this is a smart move by them because the longer you wait to pay a wide receiver at the moment, it could cost you $2 million a year minimum. To be honest with you, Deontay Johnson isn't that top 10 receiver, if you will, but he is until George Pickens emerges the best receiver on this team. So the reality is, in today's NFL, you should pay the best receiver on your team. You know what he is. You don't know what George Pickens will be. I've quite a lot of confidence in George Pickens, but I think it actually helps Pickens and their rookie quarterback paying Johnson. So yeah, I kind of like this move, and it's a bit different to how the last front office. I don't think the last front office, maybe what you spoke in the past, they don't really pay their offensive weapons. They pay the defense, but not the offensive weapons. So is this maybe a signal of some of the changes you'll see? Do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I was glad they signed him. To be honest with you, he is their best receiver. Last season he didn't have a bad season last year. He was pretty good. He had 1,161 yards and he had 107 receptions, and he caught eight touchdown passes. He was Big Ben's favorite target last year. So glad that they signed him to a 2-year extension, so that locks him up till 2025, and that's good. It's going to average a little over 18 million a year, and the total deal I think is worth like 39.5. But he's got like incentives, and plus he's got 27 mil guaranteed, so he's doing pretty well. so, but yeah, no, I mean, I know last couple times we had talked, I mentioned about his drops. I kind of want to correct myself on that. He didn't have many drops last year. He only had I think 4. But the previous year in 2020, he had like 13. So, you know, he has improved from that standpoint. So, yeah, I mean, he is the best. Like I said, he is the best receiver, and like you alluded to, Dan, until George Pickens, kind of learns, the whole system and kind of, gets into his own. This is a good signing, I think, for the Steelers. So,
Yep, I agree. And also, if you give me a choice of him and Claypool, I'd take Deontay Johnson every day for a couple of reasons. One, I think he's the better receiver. I think he's more consistent. And also, I think Claypool's all about him. And I do understand most receivers are all about them. But there's a difference between wanting your stats and still being about with the team. You saw, I don't think it was last season, I think it was the season before, where Claypool took the catch, but he was too busy celebrating, and
no, that
then
was
he got a
last year.
penalty. Oh yeah, it
Yeah, that
was
was
last year. Then
against the Vikings. Yep, against the
um,
Vikings. Yep.
if that's me, I wouldn't have played him next game. And I understand it's for NFL, and you should play te- your best team. It's hard enough, but that would annoy me, to be honest with you. Not just if I'm a coach and staff, on the coaching staff, that would annoy me as a fan, to be honest with you. Um, So yeah, that's just how I feel. I think Johnson's the better receiver, and I think he's the better leader. And the Steelers are going through a phase of transition, especially on offense. They're going to need all the leaders what they can get, and I don't think that's Claypool. So I don't know. He may. I could be wrong. He may sign a new contract soon, but I'm not
Well,
sure he's long for the Steelers.
yeah, he's going to be up next year, Chase Claypool. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I agree with you. For being 6'4", he doesn't play like he's 6'4". How many times have you seen him go up for balls and never come down on his feet? I like I said before, he needs to go down to like I don't know. He needs to go out down to like the tough neighborhoods in Pittsburgh and play basketball. Like he needs to like rebound and get knocked around. He's just I don't know. He's 6'4", but he doesn't play like it. He plays kind of you know kind of wimpy if you ask me. But yeah, no, I mean he is all about himself, like you alluded to that play he had last year of celebrating and not getting the ball when the time was ticking down. Yeah, that was last year against the Minnesota Vikings at Minnesota. I definitely remember that play. I don't know. They interviewed him. They did a bunch of interviews with players before the camp started this year, and they interviewed him, and he kind of made the comment that he wants to set the record straight, that he's sorry for his selfishness last year and some of the antics that he did, and he said he claims he's grown up. I guess I forget who it was he worked with over the off season, but it was Samuel that he worked with in the off season. But he's claiming that he's grown up a little bit. We'll see how time will tell on that one. But yeah, I'm just I was a big Chase Claypool fan when they first got him, but I don't know. As of late, I've kind of like I said, he just doesn't the selfishness and he just like I said, for being a 6'4" receiver, he plays soft, and so.
Yeah, I agree. And look, you may very well have matured. The door, I don't know. You may be different. A door's never closed for me as a fan in regard to a player, as long as they do change, unless there's something completely abhorrent. So, look, I understand he's a young man. So if he comes in and shows leadership and maybe shows more effort in those 50-50 plays, and it's not the end of the road. And possibly this payday Deontay Johnson may motivate him because he might say, they paid one receiver. Well, I'm going to have to buck my ideas up or they're not going to pay two with a receiver on a rookie deal. So perhaps he will be different. It will be interesting to see that. I'm not holding out my hope because it's not like he was a rookie last year, which would explain some of it. We will see, Bill, and no matter what the case is, we'll cover it as we get closer to the season. One episode, we'll probably have to do a deep dive into this receiver, Bill.
Yeah, if I may say one more thing on that, I kind of thought possibly they would hold off signing Johnson just for that reason, that they were going to have to turn around and maybe possibly pay Chase Claypool, but that wasn't the case. They signed Johnson, and now that might, like you said, that might, basically tell Chase Claypool, hey, you know what, I need to have a good year this year. Not only to maybe possibly sign a big deal with the Steelers, but to showcase himself for other teams. So.
Yep. Before we move on to the next topic, staying on the receivers, I've been told by two beat reporters who cover Pittsburgh on separate occasions. I've spoke with them by DM and they've spoke about George Pickens, how good he looks, and their belief that he's going to have a monster year. So if I'm a Steelers fan like you are, that gets me all kind of excited. You've come, not so much the last couple of years, all that hasn't been terrible, but you've come to expect not just good receivers exceptional receivers. So that gets me all kind of excited that you've probably found another one. So yeah, exciting times if I'm a Steelers fan.
I agree. And, here's the thing, as we've talked numerous times before, the passing game last year and the year before, and really for the last, well, I would say for the last few years since Ben got hurt and had that surgery, they've only been throwing the ball, between 12 and 20 yards. So hopefully now that they have Mitch Trubinsky in there, as we're projected he's going to be the starter, and maybe now, they have a decent wide receiving core. They got Pickens, they got Chase Claypool, they got Deontay Johnson. Now maybe we're going to see the deep ball more, because I definitely think Trubinsky's arms a whole hell of a lot stronger than what Ben's arms have been the last couple of years. So
Yeah, I agree. Before we get to the baseball trade deadline, I believe there's one brief thing you wanted to talk about on the Penguins.
yeah, supposedly the Penguins. I just read an article on in the Sporting News. Apparently, the Penguins have an interest in Patrick Kane from Chicago. So, Kane, he's going to be 34 years old this year, but he really hasn't slowed down. He had a 92-point season last year. And he's a dynamic player, I think. And I think he would look absolutely great alongside Evgeny Malkin on the team's second line. He's in his final season of his contract. So, but I read that the Penguins are he's like one of their front runners for, somebody that they're looking to get. So, which I think would be great.
Yep, I agree. So
And
moving on to, oh yes, sorry, Bill.
no, I was just going to say, and the Blackhawks GM Kyle Davidson has already said that more than likely he's not going to make it. That they're looking to get rid of him. More than likely, he's either going to get traded here in the off season, or he's not going to make it past the trade deadline. So, if I'm the Penguins, and if I'm Ron Hextall, I'm doing what I can to get that deal done.
Yep, I agree. So the Pirates, I know you was hoping. Not much was done at trade deadline. It was not just for the Pirates. It was a busy period, about as busy as I can imagine on the actual day. It proves how much I know about baseball. I said, even on the day Ron Soto, a deal probably wouldn't happen just because of how complicated it would be. Well, it just goes to show why I'm a podcaster and not an expert, because a deal did get done. So, from a Pirates point of view, what was your thoughts?
Trading Quintana and Stratton.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought they should have held on to Jose Quintana. I thought he was their best pitcher. I mean, he had the best ERA, but I understand why I don't understand why they moved them, but I get that they're, that was hit their number one trade piece. Well, and Brian Reynolds too, but I guess they couldn't get a deal done with the Yankees on that. So, but I mean, they got Johan Avedo, a right-handed relief pitcher, and they got a third baseman, Malcolm Nunez. To be honest with you, I don't really know too much about either of those guys. So that should tell you all you need to know right there. So
well, it's one of those. I think they've gone down the route of the players what they've got aren't getting them any better. Sort of kind of down the route what the Cubs went last year, where fully committing to a rebuild. They definitely are now. Reynolds will be out the door in the summer, in my opinion. After the summer, I just think he will, and I think they're fully recommitting to a rebuild. And you're seeing with the Cubs, if that is the case, the Cubs got all these prospects last year, and they're not much like the Cubs, they're not a piece or two away. This is going to take some time, and if they are committing to it, and there'll be no shortcuts, then that is one way. Obviously, we'll see if it plays out, but it's always better to have veterans than prospects because they're called prospects for a reason. You don't know what they'll grow into, so we'll see.
Right.
And in hearing your words about the moves, I think the best way to sum it up, and would I be right in saying you don't like the moves, but you understand it, if you will, in you would have preferred to keep them around for the product on the field, but you understand the reasoning of bringing in prospects what you can hopefully grow for a better future.
Well, you have to understand my perspective, though. I'm coming from a Pirates fan. They
Yeah.
rebuild every 3 years. They never ever, this is what they do. They develop guys and they trade them away. When I hear them, oh, we're in a rebuild. I'm like, you guys have been in a rebuild for the last 27 years. Like the only exception would be 2013. I
Um,
mean, it's just, you know, at some point in time, you got to develop the talent and you got to hold on to the talent and you got to, but they don't do that. They develop the talent and they get rid of them and they don't even think twice about doing it, which, I mean, Quintana, I mean, he's good. I mean, he was a good pitcher for them. And, he had an ERA. I think his ERA before he got traded was, like right just at 4. So, I mean, he was doing pretty good, but, I just, and then they got rid of Chris Stratton too as well. He was packaged in the deal as well. But yeah, I mean, until the Pirates prove to me that they're willing to do what's necessary to win, it's just all fluff to me. I'm so sick and tired of hearing, well, we're rebuilding. It's like, yeah, you rebuild every 3 to 4 years. You go through a rebuilding process, and it's just there's no other teams rebuild, and then guess what they do, Dan? They go out and win. The Pirates don't
I,
do that.
I agree. I was going to say if they're fully committing to a rebuild and going, they believe these prospects are the road to success, then what they've got to do is their farm system isn't working for them, so they've got to get the staff and completely gut it. They've got to bring in the best of the best. Ideally, they probably won't do this good ownership, but if you could poach some of the staff off someone like the Rays, who have a record of developing good young talent, you've got to do it. It's no good having these prospects and no one who can round them out. So that
Right.
is, I would say. I don't know. I might be talking rubbish, but that's if you've got
No.
talent in your farm system, you've got to develop them, or it's no good.
Right. And that's, they develop them all right, but then they get rid of them the moment that they show any signs of promise. They get rid of them. Yeah, I mean, they develop them. Don't get me wrong. They develop them great, but they don't ever. That doesn't ever translate to anything. Like O'Neal Cruz. I mean, O'Neal Cruz is amazing. I hope they hold on to him, but more than likely they'll develop him and move him in another 2 years. So, you know, I mean, it's frustrating with this. I get really frustrated. Just like the Daniel Vogelbach deal. Did they really have to make that deal? I mean, really, do they really have to make that deal? I mean, he's tearing it up in New York, with the Mets. Just the other night, he hit a grand slam. I mean, and hey, he was a good designated hitter. He put power in their lineup. But by the same token, though, it's not like they're in a race for a pennant. They're sitting middle of the pack in the division. They're not going anywhere. They're 15 games back. So um,
Yeah,
you know, I
I
just
agree.
it's just frustrating. I don't know.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
I mean
get.
they've had kind of an interesting week this week, Dan. They swept the Brewers at home, which I was kind of shocked by. They 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 lost prior to that. They lost 4-game series. Got swept by the Phillies all 4 games, and then Brewers come in on Tuesday, and they were able to take the first game 5-3, second game 8-7, and the third game 5-4. Now they're in interleague play with the Baltimore Orioles. They lost last night, and then they first pitch here is actually I think they just pitched. I think I don't even know where they're at. Yeah, they're playing the Orioles right now. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like it's weird. They get swept 4 games by the Phillies, and then the Brewers come into town. The number one team in their division standings. And they're able to sweep them. So, but
Um,
yeah, they're sitting right in the middle again of the division. They're at 43 and 63, 15 games back from the Brewers. So,
yeah. Um, so that just about wraps up the episode. Other than to say, Bill's going to be doing some content for us away from me, if you will. With my health situation and the time difference, the post game during the NFL season just isn't possible. So Bill's going to be
yeah,
heading up a post game show with Connor, who does our NASCAR content. Excited to have you as an admin, if you will, and what you'll bring. Excited to see the results, Bill.
well, thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. I'm more than happy to very very happy to do that. Definitely. So,
No problem at all. Got so much planned for the NFL season, all sorts of different voices, and it's just a way for it to feel more like a network. Me and Tanner will do the pre-game on Sunday. Carlos and Jeremy, which two interesting characters, will be doing the post game on a Thursday. Um, that's going to be very interesting. I've got Jude Jets, a very talented teenager, obviously a Jets fan, doing the pre-game for Thursday. So we've got a very variety of lineup in different voices. Yeah, I'm excited to have Bill part of the team, and of course our content on this show will continue. So yeah, I just wanted to give everyone a little um, sort of update on what we've got going, and yeah, the content will continue to grow. So um, yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say before we close out, Bill?
no, that's it, Dan. I'm excited that we finally got NFL football back. It was great to watch the Hall of Fame game the other night, even though it was a sloppy game as expected. It's preseason, but it's uh, it's it's really good that we have it back, and so
Yeah.
excited for this season. Excited for a lot of things in this season. There's a lot of you know, I mean, my Steelers, obviously you know the the changing of the guard, if you will, with the quarterback, and just seeing how that pans out. And I don't know, I'm really excited to see other things like I'm excited to see what Tom Brady does on the Buccaneers this year. And there's a lot of interesting things going on in the NFL, and it's going to be a good year, I think.
Yeah,
So
I agree. Yeah, that should be interesting. Tom Brady, we can make a whole episode out of, but I'm
yeah,
intrigued. It did not look good at the end of the season, and I think you can argue he's got less support this year than he had last year. Some players have
yeah,
walked, some players
he
have got
does.
injured. Losing your centre is not a good
Yeah.
start to that either, so we'll see how
Well,
that plays out.
and I'm excited to see what Buffalo does. I think Buffalo's going to be a very tough team this year. I just, there's, you know, and your Jets. I tell you what, when you think about it, the Jets, I think, had the best draft. I was just listening to the other day on NFL radio on Sirius XM. I think they had What was his name? Not Bob Papa, but the other guy on there. Anyway, he made a comment that he thought the Jets had the best draft, one of the best drafts in their organizational history this year. This past draft.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean, and he was talking about how your coach Saleh, good coach, and that you expect to see some good things out of your Jets this year. So
yeah. I agree. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to be honest. I've got high hopes, but not as high hopes as like some fans have. Some fans are
yeah,
dreaming of
it
playoffs. I think
yeah
that'll be more with next year.
it was Pat Kerwin that said that. It was
Okay.
it, yeah, it was Jimmy Miller and Pat Kerwin because they were at the Jets training camp, and and Pat Kerwin made that comment. He goes, when I look at this draft, he goes, and I look at the organization as a whole, he goes, this was one of their best drafts in organizational history. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but yeah, so it'll be a heck of a season this year, Dan. We'll have a lot to talk about. So
yeah. I agree. Yeah. That just about wraps everything up. Other than to say, anyone what hasn't, please like and subscribe to a YouTube channel. It is an area what we try and grow. And me and Bill will be back next week. And until then, let's talk sport.